Alright, so this has been a long time coming with this video, but this is my redo video of Maga nakshatra. This was a problem nakshatra for me because there really wasn't enough concrete or solid information for me in books and in the internet that gave me any knowledge on Maga nakshatra. All I fucking really knew is that the deity of it was the Petries, was our ancestors, and that the fucking yoni animal associated with it was a fucking male rat, and they just threw me to the fucking wolves. Ain't fucking much information out there about just you saying shit, trying to sound smart, but you don't really know motherfucking thing. But now I got a bunch of information that just hit me intuitively a few days ago and shit. Sorry for the lighting being piss poor in this fucking video. It's cloudy over here. You know that I'm more about the fucking knowledge versus the presentation and the illustration and all that shit. So let's get fucking to it. So, yeah, I got a bunch of notes, so I'm be looking at my phone. It's all scattered everywhere. But Maga nakshatra, the 10th nakshatra, is between 0 degrees of Leo to 13.20 degrees of Leo. Its quality is a Ugra nakshatra, fierce nakshatra. Its Shakti is the power to leave the body. The deity associated with it is the Petries, the ancestors. And the yoni animal associated with it is a male rat. The planetary ruler of this nakshatra is Ketu. But I know that's like a fucking, apparently a sensitive topic of discussion, of planetary rulers being associated with nakshatras. I just figure I've been fucking saying them all for these nakshatras this long, I might as well continue it. Whatever, y'all fucking believe what the fuck y'all want to believe and shit. So let's fucking get into it. Oh, the symbolism. The symbol associated with Maga nakshatra is the throne, or a palanquin, or a royal chamber. And man, oh man, the bird associated with this nakshatra is a fucking eagle. But now this is where shit just gets messy and I start shooting out mad information all over the place when it comes to this nakshatra. So a predominant vast majority of this knowledge in regard to this nakshatra comes from knowledge and facts about rats. So what can we say about them? Well, one thing, aside from the obvious, let's get the obvious out the way. Rats are fucking very sexual. They can fucking fuck themselves to death. They can die having sex. So what do we know? We know that, mice, they reproduce a lot. And, there's quite a similarity between the Petries, aka the ancestors, and the mice. You see, with your ancestors, you sort of inherit things from those that came before you. You wouldn't be here watching me if your parents didn't have sex like two rats humping on each other. You got to where you are at today based upon, your parents, or the people who came before you, or the people around you, your forefathers. I know that some people might think that they're self-made and they did everything on their own, but it's impossible for you to do everything on your own. You met people along the way and you had some help of some way, shape, form along the way. No one is successful in this world without having some type of help, without some type of team. So like I said, in a sense, you are here because of your ancestors, because of your forefathers, the people that came before you. And the mice, it sounds real raunchy and sexual, but if you think about it in a deeper spiritual sense, the mice, what they're doing, mice and rats, they're sort of undervalued. They're sort of underappreciated. The things that they do, they're doing for the next generation. They do for the future, just like the ancestors. But I'm gonna, clarify this shit, because I know I'm gonna sound real scattered-minded, because I got so much knowledge to spit that I don't really know how to exactly choreograph it. But what do we know about rats aside from the fucking that I just told you? Rats are experimented on. Rats and animals in general, but predominantly rats are like the first line of defense They get experimented on with drugs and shit, and just all type of little tests and stuff. They get experimented with vast amounts of shits, and then depending on how the stuff goes with the animal trials and shit, and how shit goes with the rats, then we'll elevate and see if it goes to humans. So in a sense, you know, like I said, rats, they are the first line of defense. Rats are always tested. So what can you say about a Maga nakshatra person? These people can be people who are very tested. They will be tested in their field. Or you can look at a Maga nakshatra person and see that, you know, they are very selfless, or they're willing to sacrifice themselves for the future. Because I really got to think about it, or really do some type of research, or the people watching should do some research. What if it wasn't for rats and mice being experimented on before stuff was distributed to humans? What would and what wouldn't we have today? You know, how many things do we take for granted and don't really think of that we might use on an everyday basis that had to first be experimented on by rats before it came to us? So you see, like, there's like this parental energy, this protective parental energy surrounding Maga nakshatra. Because just like an ancestor, just like a forefather, just like a father or a parental guardian, you are, you know, you are or will want to protect your offspring. Your offspring, your kids, they're the future. They're the next generation. Rats, they are experimented on with drugs and all type of social behavior experiments. And by taking that knowledge, they help the next generation. They help us. They help the future. Everything Maga nakshatra people do, for the most part, is like for the future. They're not just thinking about now. They thinking about, man, I want to leave a marker on this world. Or it's like, I want to help the future. I want to help a bunch of people. I want to help my kids. I want to help my employees, or whatever. And think about it. Let's go back to the symbolisms. Throne, royal chamber, and palanquin. But I mainly want to focus on the palanquin and the throne. A throne is typically, you know, something associated with a high status of power, a stature of power. A throne is like, if you think of a throne, you think of like sitting like maybe at the top of a castle on a peak with a nice big ass throne, or a nice throne. It looks real grand. And what is a palanquin? A palanquin is something that is carried by people. It's like a little, it's like you're in a little building, a little hut or whatever, and you got like people carrying you, like pallbearers carrying a casket, you know? So it's almost like, in one sense, the success of a Maga person comes from them standing on the shoulders of the success of their forefathers. You know, because think about a throne. When you think of a throne, you think of a king. You think of a ruler. And let's say that it's a monarchy. And if I'm intelligent enough, because I didn't really do no exact Google on this, but if my memory is correct, a monarchy is like, you know, you just have one king, you just have one ruler reigning. There's no voting, there's no democracy. I'm not too sure if that's like the same as, you know, a royal family where people within that bloodline just stay ruling. But regardless, if I'm using the definition wrong or not, if it's more so of a royal family type of thing, you got your position of power based upon you being born, based upon your ancestors. You're the king, you're the queen, because of you being born by your parents and your grandparents and your great-great-great-grandparents. You got this position of power from your ancestors. And if you want to go the democratic route, you got your position of power in office as president, as senator, as whatever. You got your position of power on that throne thanks to the people. The people elevated you and put you on that throne, in that position of power. So, like I said earlier in this video, for people in general, but a real theme for Maga is that you are not successful just on your own. You get your success by standing on the shoulders of those that came before you. The people elevate you to your position of power, or you got to your position of power of high status thanks to your family relatives, or studying and learning about the people who came before you in your respective field of study that you're going after. Like, let's just choose a random profession or a random field of study. Let's say that you wanted to go to school to be a judge or a lawyer or whatever the fuck you want to be. You know, because this nakshatra can be obviously and clearly associated with, like, historians want to learn and research about the past, want to learn and research about your ancestors and those that came before you. So I think one of the things that will serve a Maga nakshatra person well, if they really got a goal, they really got a dream of some profession, if they ain't doing it already, they should really take the time to learn, study, and research about those who went and was successful at the same field of profession as they was. You know, because like I said, Maga nakshatra is the rat yoni. That and Purva Falguni, but let's just focus on Maga. It's the rat yoni, and what I said, rats are experimented on, so you will be tested. Learn from your forefathers. Learn from the people who came before you in what you're doing. Learn from them and see what did they go through. See what trials and tribulations and tests was thrown at them. And by gaining the wisdom of the people who went the same path as you, you can make some new mistakes. You won't make the old mistakes that they made. You'll make less mistakes. And you'll get that much further. In a sense, where we are at today is built upon the blood of those that came before us. There's a lot of things that we are capable of saying and doing today that we clearly wasn't able to do before. And we have the people to thank, we have our ancestors to thank for that, we have our forefathers to thank for that. The people who came before us, we have them to thank for. We might think that, oh, we bought this car and we bought this phone, and we just take it for granted. But you know, we gotta, if you really dislike some scientific, critical thinking, overthinking as research and found out, you know, who designed this car, who designed this phone, how did it used to look, how many versions and models of it, you would realize that, wow, I really need to thank this person for building this car, and I need to thank all these other people who came after him for renovating it, for making this car. You know, like, you're just not successful on your own. Everything that we have today and use today was built on the blood. The foundation of it was built on the blood, sweat, and tears of those that came before us. And a Maga nakshatra person especially needs to know that. They want to be successful, and what that they do research on the people who came before them. And that will sort of, in a way, be them honoring the past and honoring those that came before them and help them be successful and propel them into the future. What else can I say about Maga nakshatra people? Let's jump to eagles for a quick second while it's on my mind. The eagle is associated with this nakshatra. And one thing that I found out about eagles is that, at least maybe the bald eagle, or just eagles in general, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section and all that bullshit, but eagles like to build their nests on high altitudes, on high cliffs. An eagle apparently does not have any predators, but they want to have a high view. They want to oversee things. They want to overwatch things. They want to, you know, survey the land, survey the area. They want to see their prey. They want to see their targets. They just want a nice high view. So what do I take from this? With the symbols of this nakshatra being a royal chamber, a palanquin, and a throne, things that are of royalty, things of high status and power and positions, you can easily say that either in a literal sense or a metaphorical sense, It could definitely be both, but I lean more towards the literal sense. A Maga person could love to sit high. They could love a nice throne. Like, for example, aside from them like literally wanting to sit in like a nice seat, a nice chair, they might want a nice office, a nice cubicle, or whatever. They might want a car or a truck that sits up high. They might want a tall or big house. If they go to the movie theaters, they might want to sit really as far in the back as they can. They want to take everything in. They want a clear view and vision of everything. And when you are a ruler, a king, a politician, a spy, or whatever, what do? You, in your position of power, usually more eyes come. Usually, you know, when you are sitting on a high throne, or even working in the shadows in a position of power, you see shit that other people see. Us regular normal people, you know, we're too close. We can't see the forest for the trees. But usually people who are in position of power, I can't really think of too many good examples, but like I said, you know, like a manager of a store, they got access to the cameras. They can see who's stealing. They can spy on people. Presidents and the government, you know, you got Secret Service, FBI. They have the ability to watch over you and see things that other people cannot see. And know, you know, it sort of makes sense, at least from an American perspective, why the bald eagle is like the, you know, the bird of the country. The eagle has no predators. Yeah, the eagle has no predators, and the eagle like high altitude. So it wants to see everything. And there's nothing really in the air that can kill the fucking eagle. So you see that maybe with a Maga nakshatra person, they might feel unfuckable with. Unfuckwittable. There we go. Like no one can fuck with them. No one can come after them. They the fucking eagle. No one can touch them. You can't fuck with me. That's probably how Maga people feel. You can't put me down. You know who the fuck I am? That's how Maga people can feel. And like I said, they could just love high altitudes. Think of high altitudes. I don't know. They might like roller coaster rides. They might want to go high. They want to sit high. They want to fly high. Fly in nice, you know, luxury and all that shit. And another thing with rats, I mean not with rats, with eagles, is that they apparently mate for life. Family is important. They take great pride in their nest, and they mate for life. They don't fuck around. Almost like a swan. So what we can see, but it's funny. There's like a polarization with this nakshatra. On one hand, you see that the eagle can mate for life. And then you see that on the other hand, the rat, yoni, no, they're very sexual. They just fuck. So it's like two things you could say about this nakshatra that aren't wrong. It's like two things can be true, right? It's like a Maga nakshatra person, they can be a hoe. They can fuck a lot. They can have a lot of sex. But also, if and when they're ready to settle down, they'll settle down. Or maybe, no matter how much they fuck off, they would desire to still settle down and all that good stuff. What else do I gotta say about this nakshatra? I had to put my glasses on so I can make sure that this is still recording, because it stops recording after a certain time and shit. I just like the way I look without my glasses. But yes, they could really value a Maga nakshatra person is very like family oriented. Another thing about rats is that rats are very they're active at night. A rat is very active at night. So what can we see about a Maga person? They can be active at night. And another thing about a Maga person is that they can be a workaholic. A Maga person can definitely be a workaholic. They can literally be working while you are sleeping, just due to the simple fact that a rat is fucking active predominantly when the sun is down. And what can we really associate Maga nakshatra with? Just like Shuttabasaj nakshatra in Aquarius, which is ironic because that's the opposite nakshatra of Leo. Well, the opposite sign of Leo is Aquarius, but still, opposite of Maga nakshatra is Denista and Shuttabasaj. But just like Shuttabasaj, Maga nakshatra can be very much so associated with criminal activities, because there's a theme of nighttime, of darkness associated with Maga nakshatra and Shuttabasaj nakshatra. And not to get off topic, if you jump to Purva Falguni, which is a female rat yoni, and you still connect this nighttime theme, the opposite of Purva Falguni is still Shuttabasaj nakshatra, and then it jumps into Purva Bhadrapada. But like I said, back to Maga nakshatra. Criminal nighttime activities. People who want to work behind the scenes, work behind the shadows, and climb to a position of power. You know, like, let's just use a broad example, a little, you know, fairy tale example, just like get my points across and shit. Let's think about, you know, like a mob family, a mafia, or just some regular street local gang and bullshit, you know. It's like you always are climbing the ladder. It's, well, like I said, I don't really know shit about what the fuck I'm talking about, but I'm just using a broad fucking example to try to paint my point across. But it's almost like some street gang of people who want power. They want money. They want respect out in the streets. And the symbolism or the metaphor for children, because like I said, rats, they fuck, they have a lot of kids. Leo isn't just all about children. The children can be followed. There we go. As I was saying, you know, it isn't always about fucking and children with Leo or Maga nakshatra. Like I said, your children metaphorically or symbolically, they can be like your underlings, your employees. Anything that is like symbolic of the future. The people, like you passing the torch. That's definitely what Leo and definitely what Maga nakshatra is about. Taking care of the future. Taking care of the next generation. So let's say you like some little regular rinky-dink street level gang. You want power in the streets. You want money. You want respect. And you want a lot of members. You want a lot of followers. Well, those members and those followers, they can be symbolic of your children. You could want to recruit a bunch of people and shit. You might really, the same way that a rat can fuck itself to death, you can end up fucking yourself to death chasing your goals. You can end up fucking yourself to death metaphorically in this little weak example that I'm concocting and shit. You can end up fucking yourself and killing yourself trying to, you know, acquire your goals, acquire your dreams, get a whole bunch of fucking members and gangs and shit. Like I said, you can be a real workaholic. Nighttime criminal activities can be associated with this nakshatra and shit. But yeah, a mob example probably would have been a way better one than a street level gang, because a mob is really organized crime, but regular low level, just people just shooting and killing each other, that ain't really organized crime at all. But you know, a mob, at least, you know, the way it's portrayed in television, which you gotta always take with a grain of salt. You got the boss, you got the underboss. It's treated like a goddamn family in a sense. And you gotta work your way to the top. You got your position of power because it was passed down to you. You know, you had to earn it, or it was inherited to you. And you sort of work behind the shadows. You work like you're supposed to work behind the shadows. If you're a criminal organization, you don't really want everyone to know that you're a fucking criminal organization. But I'm gonna stop struggling with my fucking examples. I think y'all smart enough. Y'all get the fucking picture. This can be associated with the government, and this can be associated with nighttime criminal activities. This necessarily can be associated with seeing things. Like I told you, opposite nakshatra of Maga is the Nista and Shittabashash, but you see with Shittabashash, it's Varuna. He rules the nighttime sky. He oversees everything. You ironically see that same theme with Maga nakshatra. They can oversee and watch everything from their high status, from their position of power. And another thing with Maga nakshatra is you see the deities, as I said, is the Petries, your ancestors, your forefathers. But who like rules the Petries? Or who do they work for, whatever? They work for Yama, the deity who is associated with Bharani nakshatra. The second nakshatra that falls into Aries. And fuck. Who is the foremost of the Petries? Aryaman, the deity associated with Uttara Falguni. But if you subscribe to the other belief in Taittiriya Brahmana, if I'm saying that other text correctly, well then in the other text, it is stated and believed that Aryaman is associated with Purva Falguni. So, whether you believe that Aryaman, the foremost leader of the Petries, is associated with Aryaman or Uttara Falguni is up to you, but for the sake of, ending a debate and just giving my little view and opinion, I go with Aryaman being associated with Uttara Falguni. Anyway, Aryaman is known as the leader of the Petries, the foremost of the Petries. So, let's get something straight, because it could be confusing. It's like, all right, hold on. The Petries, they work for Yama. Aryaman is the leader of the Petries. But, it can sort of get confusing. This is what I sort of learned, or my opinion. The entirety of the Leo Rashi, the entire Leo sign, and the nakshatras that fall within Leo, they are all associated with leadership. And I know whether you're a Vedic astrologer watching this, which you likely are if you're looking at a nakshatra fucking video, or even if you was into tropical astrology before you jumped to Vedic, you would always hear that, oh, Leo is associated with leadership and all that bullshit. But you never really had no logical reason for why is Leo just associated with being courageous and brave and a leader. And me, I'm the type of person, I just don't really I need to know why people think this. And if you can't give me no real solid answer and reason and justification, then I'm just going to take it with a grain of salt. I'm like, all right, it seems like you're just going along with the wave, you're just going along with the crowd. But now I got a little logical, by understanding the nakshatras, I can see that, oh, I understand now why Leo might be associated with leadership. Let's briefly break down Leo in its entirety real quick. So, in my opinion, Maga nakshatra is the highest of thrones. It's the highest position of this. That nakshatra represents the highest of thrones, the highest form of power, like a highest status out of Leo in the Leo Rashi. Because like I said, the symbolism is the throne, the palanquin, the royal chamber. They are sitting in the throne. They're sitting in the White House. They're sitting in whatever other fucking position of power and office that might be associated with other countries. That's where the fuck Maga represents. They're sitting in that fucking room. They are sitting in that throne that calls the fucking shots. But Aryaman and Uttara Falguni, he is known as the foremost leader. And let's jump real quick to the symbolisms of Purva Falguni and Uttara Falguni. Purva Falguni is the fireplace, but the main point I want to focus on is that Purva Falguni is also represented to be like the headboard. or the legs of the bed that's like towards your head where you rest. And Uther that's symbolism is like the legs of the bed of where your feet rest and shit. So ultimately, whether it's the headboard or the feet and legs of the bed, we see that Purva Falguni and Uttar Falguni, their symbolisms deals with things that are supporting a structure. They deal with things on a ground level, in a sense. Arya Men, in my opinion, with me making this deduction from the symbolisms of the nakshatras in Leo, Arya Men probably has the best people in Uttar Falguni or whatever. Arya Men, these people, they have the best qualities of a leader, but they might not necessarily be in that position of power where they are calling the fucking shots. They might be a champion amongst people. You know, Uttar Falguni people, they could probably be like a civil rights leader. People who have great influence, people who might have great character that people love. But that person, that celebrity, that influencer, that civil rights activist, they don't have the power to make the moves that a person who is actually in a position of power can do. They don't have the manpower, the weapon, the resources that the person who is on a throne has. But they might have the better skills of leading. They might have the better mind, the better morals, the better character. So that's how I, segregate them. So like I said, Maga is the highest of the thrones. Uttar Falguni is also a leader because of Aryaman. He got the noble qualities and traits. He probably supporting these people, these Uttar Falguni people, they probably are great leaders amongst men. Purva Falguni, I know there's another debate. There's so much debate or confusion or discussions between what is associated with Uttar Falguni and what is associated with Purva Falguni because of the two different texts. Some people believe Arjuna is associated with Purva. Some people believe Arjuna is associated with Uttara. But in my opinion, I subscribe to Arjuna being associated with Purva Falguni. And if you want to hear all that shit, look at my Purva Falguni nakshatra video. But Arjuna, he was somebody, he is the son of Indra. And he is someone who is most famously known in the Bhagavad Gita. He's most famously known for that. Arjuna was a great warrior. He's a great warrior. His father is Indra, the king of the Devas. He received guidance and wisdom from Krishna, the incarnation of Vishnu. So Arjuna himself, he is a warrior, and maybe you might view him as a leader. The deity of Purva Falguni is Magha, but I can't really think of no real leadership qualities associated with Purva Falguni if I focus on Magha, the deity. But with the Petries and the throne of Magha, Arjuna being associated with Purva Falguni, and then Aryaman being associated with Uttar Falguni, you see that all of Leo is associated with leadership. Maga is the position of power. They're on the throne. They can say, hey, execute this motherfucker right here. Purva Falguni is someone who is like a warrior. They're a warrior, they're a leader. They out there, they'll dance, they'll stomp your ass, and if you're a girl, they'll fuck the shit out of you or whatever. That's Arjuna, that's Purva. Uttar Falguni, Aryaman, leader of the Petries. But I get like this leader and champion amongst men vibes with Uttar Falguni. A leader amongst men, a champion amongst men, a person who can be of great influence, but might not necessarily be on a throne in a position of power to call the shots like everyone else. But they are like a leader who is like down to earth, who might really touch the people and stuff, So I just had to get that out the way, that all of Leo is associated with leadership, in my opinion. And I'm not going to lie to you. I do not know why I went on this sermon telling you about why is all of Leo associated with leadership, but I'm about to try and move on. I remember I was talking about how motherfucking, now I'm freestyling. Now I remember telling y'all about how motherfucking this is associated with the nighttime activities. There you go. That's what I was about to say. Because I was clarifying that the Petries and how Iron Man is the leader and the foremost of them, and how it might get confusing. It's like, hold on. The Petries serve Yama, Iron Man is the leader of the Petries, and the Petries is the forefathers. It's all tongue twisting. So I just clarified that shit. Let's jump into the spiritual aspect of Maga nakshatra. And that's another thing. All of Leo Rashi, all the nakshatras in Leo, all of them are spiritual. And people might not see that on the surface. But all of Leo is fucking spiritual. Leo's a very diverse sign. The nakshatras in Leo, they are all very diverse. You can't really categorize them. They can do a lot of shit. And if you go look up professions with Maga, Uttara, and Purva, you'll see like, damn, these motherfuckers, they can do everything. Does anybody know what they do? That's how I felt. Because there really is no clear explanation. But now I got it. I can explain it. So, let's jump to the spiritual side. Maga. The Shakti is the power to leave the body. And I told you that the deity is the ancestors, the Petries. The Petries are, you know, they like rule, or I mean, they like work for like Yama. So I automatically think of something spiritual, of a worldly stuff. Yama is associated with death and endings. And your Petries are your ancestors. They're the people who are no longer with us. They're like spirits. They're like souls. They just no longer here in the physical form. But they left their mark on the world. And for you to want to maybe get in contact with your ancestors and your spirits and those that came before you, you might have to go to like a museum, or you might have to maybe go to like some religion or do some spiritual practices in order to get in contact with, get a sense of communication and in tune and touch with those that came before you, right? So automatically, for those little simple reasons, you see that Maga nakshatra can be very spiritual. With that Shakti, the power to leave the body, and with the Petries being connected with Yama, the deity associated with death, and the Petries are those ancestors and those that came before us that are no longer with us. If you want to get in contact with them, you have to do occult, mystical, spiritual, religious things in order to get in contact and in tune with those that came before you. Am I right? So I think it's safe to say that, and you don't know how this karma might play out with a Maga nakshatra, but maybe while a Maga person is grinding to get to their throne, grinding to get to their palanquin, grinding to get to their royal chamber, grinding to get to that nest on that high cliff, on that high altitude cliff. After they get there and they got everything that they want, it's like, man, I'm glad that I got everything that I want. My family is set. I don't got to be homeless no more. My kids are going to be fed. Their kids are going to be fed. I got all this stuff, but I'm still not really quite happy, you know? I got all this stuff and I realized that it was useless, that it was meaningless. I'm not going to say that it's meaningless, like I don't need it and that my family don't need it, but I also realized that I can lose this stuff anytime. I can't take this stuff with me when I die. I'm comfortable, but I'm not happy. So, them working so much and getting so caught up in the material world, it can fucking, you know, drive them to maybe do drugs or a spiritual experience. And another thing, I should have said this earlier. I know I mentioned in the beginning of this video that this nakshatra is ugra, is fierce, is severe, and it makes sense. To get to the throne, to get to the top of the castle, the top of the mountain, to make your first million or whatever it is, you got to be aggressive. You got to be assertive. You can't be completely soft. You got to have some bite to you. You got to Put your hand down. Put your foot down. So that's where that aggressive nature comes in with with Maga nakshatra. And why did I say that these people can really love to do drugs? It's either a Maga person, they could love to do drugs, or a lot of drugs might be pushed on them. They might be more vulnerable to drugs being pushed on them. Why? Because of a rat. Rats are experimented with drugs. So, either, you might get real overwhelmed with life. You're a millionaire, you're a billionaire. You making 6 figures like it's nothing. And you're stressed. What do I want to do to get the stress off? I want to do some coke. I want to do some dope. I want to get a needle. Stick me with a fucking needle. I want to pop this fucking pill. Let's not act like it ain't real. Let's not act like it doesn't happen. People who are fucking rich, these suit and tie motherfuckers, they stereotypically known to fucking do drugs. Or you see celebrities, they seem like they got it all, and then you find out they overdose on fentanyl or something. So, wealth and success and drugs, they are all synonymous. Stress is stress. You be smoking crack, whether you in a fucking poor ass neighborhood, or you'll be fucking doing dope and still crack in a fucking mansion. But if you got drugs and a drug addiction or a problem or stress, you're going to fucking lean towards that shit. And the Maga person, the rat yonis, they can be real vulnerable and susceptible to doing drugs, experimenting with drugs. Something that will make them have this out-of-body experience. Something that will make them escape from this materialism that they have just gained, that is bringing them comfort, but it isn't bringing them peace. So like I said, you can see the Maga person eventually, after they got this wealth, got this fame, they realize that the material things isn't bringing them happiness. They would want to have that spiritual out-of-body experience, to find answers, to find peace, and they might try to do so through the form of drugs, or they might cave in from the pressure of their material, things. The weight of the crown on their head might be too much, and they'll cave into drugs. But just the poor Falguni, because like I said, all of Leo Rashi is fucking spiritual. If you jump to Leo, if you jump to Purva Falguni, the Shakti of Purva Falguni, I forget the exact, it's like to bring two polarizing things together, to bring two bodies together. It's one of those two things. To bring opposites together is like the Shakti of Purva Falguni. So, and then if you think about Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita and how he had that spiritual experience with Krishna, when Krishna revealed his Vishvarupa form, and he's seen like so many the way it's described in the story is so beautiful that it's almost impossible to put it into words off the top of your head unless you're reading the pages yourself. But he's seen like everything. He's seen the beginning of the existence, the ending of existence, life and death. He's seen so many things simultaneously that it can drive you crazy. It can drive you insane. It can make you faint and lose your mind. It can be insanely overwhelming. At least that's the way it's described. Arjuna, in a sense, he had his spiritual experience in Purva Falguni. And then the also symbolism for Purva Falguni is a fireplace. For you to do rituals and stuff. Magha, he was a part of some ritual with Daksha before Daksha's daughter Sita jumped into the fire committing suicide, and then Shiva came in and killed everybody at the party and stuff. So rituals and all that stuff and spiritual experiences is associated with Purva Falguni. Then you jump to Uttar Falguni. Uttar Falguni is the bull. The bull is associated with Nandi the bull. Nandi the bull is the Vahana, the vehicle associated with Shiva. Shiva is a great mystic. Shiva is a great healer. Shiva is a lot of things. So we see the mystical side of Uttar Falguni. All of the Leo Rashi can be associated with astrology. And it's interesting because Leo originally rules the fifth house. The fifth house is associated with education. Aside from children, it's education. And I think the fifth house can also be associated with astrology too. Don't quote me on that, but we definitely for sure know that the fifth house is associated with education. So we see with me breaking this shit down, Leo people, they can do a lot of things. They can do a variety of things. They're capable of doing a lot of stuff. Like I said, one of the things so yeah, I had to make sure why did I say this? I say all that to say all of Leo and all of the nakshatras in Leo, they are very spiritual. And like I said, the career paths for for Leo and the nakshatras and Maga, they are very wide. For Maga, the career paths for them, they're like careers that have a huge influence and impact on the future. So like a judge, a politician, astrology, predicting the future and all that good stuff. A Maga person, they could be a scientist. They can be a doctor. They're experimenting. They're doing scientific stuff. Definitely, you can see a beautiful scientist come out of Maga. If just me thinking logically with the experiments that happens with rats, the tests that go through. And one theory of mine's, because I don't know, I would have to speak to Maga people and interview them and break them down and shit, but I theorize that, you know, planets that are in Maga, like I said, they will be tested. Just like a rat. Just like a mouse. So, I don't got a bunch of examples, but let's just say, for example, let's say your Jupiter is in Maga. We can roughly estimate or hypothesize that if your Jupiter is in Maga, well, then your education will be tested. Your knowledge and wisdom will be tested. And we see that your great wealth of knowledge will come from you studying and learning about those that are doing what you are doing before you. So if you're into astrology, you want to be a great astrologer, learn about the people who are great at astrology, who you look up to, who have been doing it longer than you, who have been doing it before you. Learn them. Buy their courses, read their books, look at their videos. Because you can be a great astrologer on your own, but you gotta respect and honor those that came before you in anything, not just astrology. You always gotta do research. You always gotta, you know, read and learn, you know. What else can I say about Maga nakshatra? But like I said, they can just do a lot of positions. Damn, that sounds real sexual, but Maga people, they can just do a lot of fields of study, a lot of things. Stuff that these can be people who can work remotely because of the fact that rats, they are predominantly active at night. These are people who can work remotely behind the scenes, behind the shadows. So you could be sitting at home doing some tech job or whatever. Telemarketing. Or you could just have like some nice position of power. A high status job, whatever that might be. It could be for the government. You could be going to school to get some nice education, some high status job or whatever. And I know that I've mentioned a zillion times that this is a rat yoni, because most of the stuff I just told you came from me talking about rats. But if you're reading this, you can't fucking lie. You're like, damn, this motherfucker's smart. This motherfucker's making points. This is my ego talking now, but I know I'm fucking telling the truth and shit. But I know, like I said, I mentioned rats, but I didn't mention the connection of Ganesha with the rat yonis and stuff, you know. I forget the exact lore of it because Ganesha wasn't really the major factor of me getting this, dropping this knowledge. But then again, I might be ignorant because Ganesha is the deity associated with astrology, right? And I'm just got this knowledge about Maga, and I didn't read it in no fucking book because I would have been redid Maga, but I just was just stuck, and then it just hit me, and I just started taking down notes, and I made this video and shit. But yeah, he is the deity associated with astrology. He is associated with rats because his vehicle, his Vahana, is a rat. And long story short, because I forgot the name of the deity and all that good stuff, because I didn't really research that part. He break his tusk off, he throws it at the demon, who was a rat or whatever. He sits on the motherfucker, and the demon can't change back to his original form or size, and ta-da! So like I said, typically with the deities and their animal vehicles, it's very symbolic of a lot of things. It's like shows that deity taming that animal and maybe the lower qualities of what that animal might be doing and what it represents. So like I said, the low vibrational maybe size of a rat is that they fuck all the time. They have a lot of sex, right? But what would be maybe the higher form, the nobler form of rats? Well, let's say that if you was to utilize in a practical way this same thing that rats are doing, they're fucking to reproduce. Instead of you fucking, like I said already, a Maga nakshatra person, their energy can be dedicated to building things and opportunities for the future, for the next generation. A Maga person might not ever have kids, but they're going to make sure that the future is taken care of. It's almost like building up a company like Apple, and then you die, but your brand lives on, and we use the iPhones all the time, but the creator is not here. He passed away, he's dead, but his legacy lives on. He made an impact that we are using, that our kids are using, that our kids will be using. That's like Maga. You work your ass off to get to the top of the throne, and then you might become real spiritual after you get to the throne or on your way to the top. And then even when you die, you left behind so much for either your kids to run, or even if your kids and family don't run it, whatever you built will be utilized in feeding the future, feeding the generations ahead of you and the children's children forever and stuff. That's what Maga is doing. That's what Maga is about. And it will do that in some way, shape, or form. Maga could be associated with either inheriting, like you inheriting stuff, or Maga can be associated with you building something up, and then whatever you're building up, you might give it away. And what you're giving away can be either physical and literal or metaphorical. You can be giving away knowledge that you learned about knowledge that you gained from learning about stuff that people got you hit with, that came before you. The stuff that you give away, it could be your time, it could be your help, but the help and time that you're giving away will make a long-lasting effect and domino effect and help generations. So really study and observe what goes on if you got a planet in like your birth chart and Maga nakshatra, and just see if you're inheriting stuff or if you're building something up to give away. See if you're building a throne, you're building a chamber, you're building a palanquin. All of this in a metaphorical sense, of course. Another thing that I know I said in my first Maga video that is going to be basically deleted by the time this new one that I'm recording right now comes out, is that rats are neophobic, meaning that they are afraid of new things. So I don't really got too much spiritual, philosophical, in-depth stuff to say about that. You're gonna be tested on your way to the top, and naturally, maybe more so than usual, you as a rat yoni will be neophobic. You will be afraid of new things. Now looking at my notes to make sure I am not missing anything, so just give me a moment. So yeah, boom. As y'all already know, This nakshatra can be associated with the DNA, with your genetics. So maybe if you got like your ascendant Lord or your ascendant in Maga nakshatra, and maybe they end up in a sixth house or got like a lot of malefic aspects connected to them. Maybe you can suffer from like genetic diseases, genetic issues, or whatever. You know, stuff that could be like there's no cure. It's just that you just got to deal with it. Stuff like sickle cell or whatever little type of genetic diseases that there really isn't necessarily a cure for. It's just that you just got to treat the symptoms. That can be associated with Maga nakshatra. What else? Dental issues. So another thing with rats, apparently their teeth keep growing. So rats, they gotta always chew on things. They gotta gnaw on stuff. They gotta trim their teeth down. If not, their teeth will keep growing. So what can we say about what can we say about Maga and Purva Falguni? What we can say about these two nakshatras, because they're both rats, is that these people, they can have a nice smile, a nice big full set of teeth, because rats' teeth, they just keep growing. It just keeps growing. So Maga and Purva can have a nice big full smile or big prominent front teeth, buck teeth maybe, and they can love to eat. Love to eat because they gotta keep chewing. They gotta keep eating. They gotta keep gnawing on something. So these people, they get always like to chew on something. They got like to chew on something, or love to eat a lot. And maybe and you know, so there's some people out there who like to chew tobacco, or maybe you just like to have a cigar or a cigarette in your mouth. So you might chew on your cigar or your cigarette. That could be something associated with Maga or with Purva Falguni, which makes sense. You're sitting on your throne, you're sitting in your nice chair, your nice office, you just thinking you the shit. You spark up your fucking cigar and you just vibing. What else? Like I said, back to the workaholic thing with Maga nakshatra people. If they're starting from the bottom and building something, whatever it might be, they can be motivated. Like, I'm just being real broad because you don't know how the karma will play out in your chart, but them losing everything at some point can motivate them and drive them to make sure that they'll never lose it ever the fuck again. If they was homeless, if they lost their car, they had it towed and repossessed because they couldn't make the payments, and like I said, this is associated with the nighttime, and then these people, they can fuck 500 times or 1,000,000 times a day. They can fuck themselves to death. They will end up channeling that energy. While you sleeping, they'll be working. While you're fucking, they're fucking making money and shit. These people can be workaholics. They can have that energy. They can have that drive. They can have that motor to build and secure their future and the next generation and all that stuff. These people can be real motivated, real driven, real hungry to get to the top, to accomplish their fucking goal, and they could cut your fucking head off to get to the fucking top, because it's a ugra, it's a fierce nakshatra. Maga person, they can desire to have a huge stage, a huge platform to address the people, to be seen and give an influence. So, you know, you can see performance arts associated with Maga. And performance arts is associated with, like, the 5th house and Leo anyway, because the 5th house is, like, hobbies also. But you see, Maga is the highest of the stages. It's the highest platform. So, like I said, it's the palanquin, it's the chamber, the royal chamber, and it's the throne. So, you know, Maga people, they could desire or naturally just get like a nice, they could get mass attention. They can be seen. They could want to be seen. They could want to be heard, which makes sense because opposite of Leo is Aquarius. Aquarius originally rules the 11th house. The 11th house is associated with large organizations and network circles and large groups and all that bullshit. The Maga person who is in Leo if they're a politician, and all that stuff, they need resources. They need a large audience. They need to touch a lot of people to get to that throne. So you see the axis, that 511 axis that I'm channeling with this Maga nakshatra. What else can I say? Give me a moment. I basically said almost everything that I needed to say about this nakshatra without me even having to look at my notes. But I just want to make sure. I know that this is probably a shitty part of the video, just me staring at my fucking phone, but measure twice and cut once, everybody. So this is another thing that came to the top of my head because I didn't find nothing so far on my phone because I took a lot of fucking notes. So in Vedic, the alternative name for Leo is Simha, Simha, and that sort of means like a lion or whatever. And one thing that I learned and discovered recently is that, you know, lions and tigers and snakes, they cannot be tamed, or they cannot be domesticated. I remember looking at a video, and I'm gonna tie this all into this video. I like to hear myself talk. But I remember looking at a video of George Foreman and Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson, he owned tigers, and he said that, you know, he just couldn't keep them. Even though he got them when they were younger or babies, they would eventually try to, you know, turn against him and all that shit. He had to get rid of them. George Foreman, boxer, he had a lion, but the lion ended up about to attack his brother, and he ends up jumping in, and he's about to swing on the fucking lion to stop the lion from either attacking him, about to harm him, or harm his brother. And he eventually got rid of the fucking lion. So you can't tame a lion, you can't tame a tiger, and snakes, apparently with snakes, they can't. Maybe I'll save this for an Aslacia video when I decide to, if I decide to redo Aslacia. When it comes to snakes, they cannot develop no emotions or a sense of intimacy with their owner, you know. So it's like you can have a snake as a pet in a cage and all that stuff, but don't think that just because you're feeding the snake and you're around it all the time that it won't fucking L you out, because apparently they don't develop that bond, that attachment to humans. So why am I saying this? Where the fuck am I going with this? Leo, as we know, is associated with lions. Leo's are fucking associated with lions. So what can we say about Leo Rashi in general and the nakshatras that are in Leo? These people cannot be tamed. They cannot be domesticated. It's hard for you to tame these people. It's hard for you to control these people. They're their boss. They're their own leader. Now, I'm being real careful because it doesn't mean that you can't get married, of course, with Leo if you have planets that are within Leo, because we all know that Uttara and Purva, they're very favorable for like marriage and the love life. And Maga isn't really bad either, now that I just told you about eagles and how I just told you how a sense of family is important. So if eagles want a mate for life, what can we say about Maga? We can easily say that Maga takes partnership very seriously. I think the bird, if my memory serves right, for Purva Falguni is a fucking eagle. So Purva Falguni and Maga, they take partnerships very fucking seriously. Uttar Falguni, seriously. Even though I know the bird for Uttar Falguni is a peacock, but because of the connection of Aryaman, it is in Nandi the bull, and Nandi the bull being connected with Shiva, and Shiva married to Parvati. All of Leo is, in my opinion, very favorable for marriage. But because of the connection of a lion, they, you know, they might not be easily tamed, or they might have a real strong sense of independence to them. But even though I'm jumping around, just dropping knowledge in general now, if you look at the fucking lion nakshatras, Purva Bhadrapada and Fuck. Purva Bhadrapada and Denista Nakshatra. Both of them fall in Aquarius. Those aren't really the best goddamn nakshatras for marriage, if you know a little bit of something about nakshatras. And then tigers. Chitra and Vishaka are the tiger nakshatras. I know Vishaka can be troublesome with marriage because of, you know, Indra and Agni. Chitra is the celestial architect. Chitra doesn't scream relationship dysfunction, but I would have to do my own research for that. And yeah, I'm getting off topic, but the lion part of this video is, yeah, these people can be hard to tame, hard to pin down. Traditions are important with this nakshatra. They like to work in the shadows. I said that already. Workaholics. They have no predators. They feel like no one can fuck with them. And that is really my video. I have missed nothing. I said everything that I wanted to say about Maga, but that's Maga. They can do a lot of things. All of Leo can do a lot of things. I hope this video was very informative for those who have Maga placements in their chart and they want to understand themselves. If there was anything like me, they read a bunch of books, looked at YouTube videos, and they got some knowledge, but it wasn't really enough. Like I said, if you got planets in Maga, I believe that part of your life will be very tested, because it's through those tests, it's through the trials and tribulations, it's through the tests that we face in this life that gives us strength. If everything was peaceful, if everything was working well, there would be no future. There would be no innovation, because we wouldn't want to grow. We would be comfortable. So this is my message. It is, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's good to be uncomfortable. With uncomfortability, there'll be growth. If you're uncomfortable, you'll do things to make sure that you're not uncomfortable. And that will get you knowledge. That will get you growth. Maga people, they can experience a lot of the rat yonis. They get tested a lot. And their tests helps better the future. Use your test that you'll face to better yourself. To elevate yourself. If you have Mars in Maga, maybe your willpower, your courageousness, your efforts will be tested. It's like, how long you going to tolerate this shit? How long you going to just keep laying down on your back and letting this happen? If it's in Venus, your love life will be tested a little bit more. Or you might date someone who is like a Maga native. Like I said, I can't think of too many good ways of explaining planets through Maga, but I'm done. I'll see you whenever I decide to make another video, but I had to get this off my chest. Thank you.